Hello everyone, welcome to the Legacy Pulse. My name is Pepe Onziema, and today in our episode 2, we're having a conversation with a friend and a co-conspirator, a lawyer, a feminist, a lesbian, an apologetic lesbian. Quite fire. This is the Legacy Pulse. We interrogate the question of what liberation looks like for queer lives, for LGBTIQ persons in this country that is constantly hostile. We are constantly trying to find opportunities to survive. But this podcast is looking at thriving. In the surviving, how do we thrive? How do we find joy? Welcome.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me, Pepe. I'm excited that you're doing this, but also that you felt like I could contribute to the things that you're trying to say in a good way. And I feel like you said the most relevant things because I feel like I'm in my lesbian era right now. So I'm happy that you really put that front and center. But I think of myself as a feminist thinker, a writer, and I'm also a teacher. I've really been teaching for a while. For the most part, I've been teaching the law, but I think about my approach to life and my activism also as part of my teaching role, in our society. Because unfortunately, for some of us, we've found ourselves in a position where our societies, or certain elements in our societies, claim that we are strange, that they don't know who we are, they've never heard of us before, they've never seen us, because maybe knowledge about us has been erased or deliberately suppressed. So we do have to play that teaching role. So I don't see teaching as just my profession, but also as something that I constantly have to do in my activism and in my interpersonal interactions with people in the world. So that's by way of introduction, that's really.
And because we are reclaiming ourselves, reclaiming the works of our hands, of our intellect, where have you taught? Have you taught in any organized institutions? Because they will probably erase you. So this is the time that you should claim, what you've contributed to the education system in this country and around Africa.
Okay, that's true. So I've taught at 3 institutions. I've taught at Cavendish University in Uganda. They have a branch in Kampala, which is where their law faculty was. So I teach the law because that's what my qualification is. So Cavendish University, I actually taught Bobby Wine, not to name drop, but he was in my class. He was in my class. I was marking his coursework. And then I also taught at the International University of East Africa. It's situated, where Diddy's World used to be.
Yes.
They are the institution that acquired that property and basically turned it into an educational institution. And then in Kenya, I've been teaching at Pwani University, which is a government institution on the coast of Kenya. Basically teaching the law to undergraduate students. And trying to shape legal minds. And yes, thank you for insisting on the mentioning of those, because people do erase us and claim that we've not contributed meaningfully when it becomes inconvenient, to be associated with us.
Absolutely. And what we are really doing with this podcast, like I said, is reclaiming those spaces, but also reclaiming ourselves, where we've lost ourselves and probably ditched or hung our contributions to this country and this continent somewhere, because people have pushed us in those corners to forget that part of us and focus on our sexual identity, sexual orientation, our gender identity, and then we are fully in survival mode. So that said, you said you're a feminist thinker. You're also my birthday. You're my birthday. You are still, a young queer. But when I met you, and I remember seeing an email from Lady G Murembo at yahoo.com. Was it .com or .co.com? Yeah. And I was like, this is a kid. Like, I knew when I knew that I was queer, I was young. But I'm here in a formal setting, organizing, and I'm seeing you at probably the age that I was, and you're on email, and you're trying to connect. You know, tell me about your earlier years, that Yahoo era. Yeah, like that Yahoo era, and you on email and trying to reach out to community. You were probably looking for community, but tell me, like, what did that take?
Exactly what it was. Yeah. So how do I say? You know that only queer in the village syndrome, which all of us suffer from at some point when we think we are the only kuchu in the area. I feel like at the time when I reached out to you, I had known that I'm queer, and for at least 3 years, because at the time when I reached out to you, I think I was 20 or going on 20. Actually, no, I was 19.
You were, yeah.
I was 19.
Because I was afraid of you. I'm like, hey, this baby, what do they want?
Yeah. So I had gone through that, like, only kuchu in the village thing, where I felt like it was just me and my girlfriend at the time who were, like, queer, you know. It was very isolating because we had met each other while we were in high school, and then we were in law school together at that time, and we just felt so isolated because we felt like there was a spotlight on us because we were very obviously queer, yeah. And then at some point, I think we became very serious about looking for other queer people, yeah. And so we did like a quick Google, and then Smug came up. The Poyoka website, by the way, it was really a godsend. And then also that was the time, I think, when Ugandan Kuchus, that was the era when you all were doing a lot of media engagement, producing documentaries, doing like interviews on international media. So even if not all the content was like local Ugandan content, I was able to like watch videos of you saying certain things.
Did you get to watch Kuchus of Uganda?
Yes, I watched Kuchus of Uganda. I even watched that documentary that you did with Gender Dynamics.
Yes.
With Kinatemba Nkosi. Yes. Yeah. So I saw all those things. I was like, what? They are like Ugandans who are queer and they like claim to be queer, but also Pepe. Like, and I was telling you this earlier. You've been hot my whole life. You've been hot my whole life. So I was like, Banangi, who's this sexy? You get? I was like,
cut the blushing part.
I was like, who is this sexy? We have to, you know, get to know each other and figure out what's going on. Also because when I was younger, not to say that as I've gotten older, I've mellowed out. I don't think that I've mellowed out, but I was still in the very early stages of my feminist journey, right? In the sense that I was still like learning for the first time about things like collective organizing, what it means to struggle for liberation together with other people, yeah? And so I became very invested in like, who are the other queer people that I can look for my liberation with? So that's how I reached out to you. It wasn't just like a superficial, who is this holy, yeah?
Yeah.
There was also like a plan behind it. And I'm so glad that your response, it was so warm. It was so warm. Like, if, sadly for a lot of us queer people, yeah, we have to parent ourselves because we are not able to share certain things with our families. And we, or at least, like, we are either actively lying to our families, or we find ourselves in situations where the people who are supposed to parent us, because in Africa, they tell us it takes a village to raise a child, which is true. All of us are raised by, like, villages, yeah? But the village abandons queer people at some point. And for me, I feel like you kind of stepped in as, like, part of the village that parented me, to be honest, in terms of, like, showing me how to be a human being who values yourself, who is able to like see the possibility of life beyond this thing that people have turned into a thing that you should be ashamed of, that you should be scared of, you know? So yeah, I'm so grateful for that, like that I got to interact with you and we became not just friends, but also like have gotten to hold each other's hand in this journey of life, yo?
Definition of family.
Yeah, yes.
Beyond the cliche family definition.
Yes.
Because I do refer you actually as my family. You've talked about feminism. What has that journey been like? And blending. I mean, the movement terms are intersectionality. You as a lesbian person, a feminist, an academic, like what's the intersection there? Because what I know is that, and I've experienced it, calling myself a feminist, lately I don't, because feminism has othered me. And people who have called themselves feminists have hurt me. My idea of feminism is about healing. It's about wholesomeness. It's about collectiveness. It's about developing together, that togetherness, you know. For me, feminism, the way I thought about it was like, not particularly an alternative to Ubuntu, but a reclamation of Ubuntu. So, yeah, so that said, you're a queer person, you're a lesbian person, you have all these other, components, identities of your life. How do you make that work?
So how do I say this? First of all, I consider feminism to be lesbian ideology. I really, like, after all my years of reading about and understanding the different doctrines of feminism and whatever, my spirit is sure that it was lesbians who first sat down and said, but aren't women people? You get, because that is the premise.
So when people say that feminists are lesbians,
sometimes we just have to allow that sometimes the stereotype exists because there is some fact to it. You understand? But also because loving women is intrinsic to like lesbian practice and just, because lesbians love women.
Yeah.
And lesbians are women who love themselves also. And I think that idea of insisting on the humanity of women, for me, I can't view it as anything other than lesbian ideology. Yeah. And luckily for me, a lot of the feminist thought that I was exposed to when I first started learning about feminism and trying to make sense of just this very glaring inequality that I noticed in society, which I was myself experiencing at home in my family, but also from broader society, because I've always had, you know my personality, yeah? I've been like this my whole life. Like there's no point in my life that I can remember that I have not been the person, or at least had the character that I have right now, in terms of always being a very dominant person, very self-assured, very aware of myself and the role that I want to play in the world. But then I always felt like that thing was somehow, like there was always someone telling me, Taratibu, calm down. And then I realized that the reason why I'm being told to calm down is because I'm perceived as a woman in this society. You understand? So that thing, when I started to interrogate it, luckily for me, the majority of the thinkers and the literature that I got access to was from like lesbian thinkers, or at least queer thinkers, people like Alice Walker, Audre Lorde. And then of course that was the time when Sylvia Tamale was really doing a lot of like feminist consciousness raising in Uganda. And then I was very lucky to get into law school, and then she was, a member of the faculty. And I feel like the women who I have learned from were always very much invested in the idea of intersectionality. Because when did Kimberly Crenshaw theorize about intersectionality? In the early 90s. By the time I was learning about feminism, intersectionality was a settled, position that feminists have adopted. This understanding that oppressions act on individuals differently depending on the positions that they occupy in the society because of their different identities. Yeah. So for me, it was never a struggle to reconcile the many different identities that I hold with feminist ideology, because feminism is my ideology. It was created by people like me for people like me, And the beauty, I think, of a life-giving ideology like feminism is that it's impossible for a good thing to be limited to only a particular group of people, Eventually, other people will be like, hey, what's this nice thing? Also, as we want it. But also because feminists are trying to create a society in which we can all thrive, which means that ideology embraces the thriving of all of us. And sadly, there are a lot of people, because of different levels of understanding, but also, sadly, some people are just cruel,
who take on the feminist identity,
and then continue to practice harmful behaviors that harm others but also exclude others. I mean, look at Uganda, We've seen so many people publicly claim themselves as feminists, but who are extremely homophobic and not afraid to express that homophobia, and who actually are quite sexist themselves, So I think that there are certain individuals who behave badly, but
bad manners, tabia mbaya.
Tabia mbaya, exactly. But the essence of feminism is really, yes.
You check it and
yes. When a feminist opens the door, lesbians enter, queer people enter, HIV positive people and other people with terminal illnesses enter, persons with disability enter. You get, when feminists open the door, we all enter. Yeah. So, of course, some people insist on this ideological purity, and we are allowed to organize ourselves differently. We don't have to organize with everybody. Yeah. But, I think that feminism is for all of us.
Feminism and faith. Because a lot of people who have sort of held so tight on the practices of oppression say my religion. I am a feminist, I am a Christian. Like that disturbs me a lot. Because if you say feminism and then faith, if you say you're a Christian, and the way Christianity has been actually taught, because what we are saying is practice, that is not Christianity, but the way it has been taught, it's about compassion, empathy, and all those things. So, like, it really messes with me when I see people who claim feminist identity, then they back their bad deeds or they are oppressing other people with religion.
Yeah.
I struggle with that. Help me out.
It's interesting because that's a conversation I've seen feminists struggling with a lot, especially like people who are still, yes, especially for people who are still in the, I mean, we are always learning, because as human beings continue to evolve, we learn new things about each other. But religion, especially like the Abrahamic religions, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, a lot of them are based on patriarchal gender relations. And so I think that when you try to marry those religions with feminist ideology, there are definitely going to be contradictions. There are definitely going to be contradictions, especially in this Uganda, Pepe, the way people practice Christianity in Uganda.
If they do anyway.
Yeah, you start sounding like a hypocrite when you say, I am a Christian feminist. Because which part of Christianity are you bringing into feminism? But also, which part of feminism are you taking into Christianity? Because I think of feminism as a practice of liberation.
Yes.
A lot of people who say that they are Christian feminists, it's not that they are trying to bring feminism into their religions. It's that they are trying to tell feminists, welcome my religion. Why don't you go to your pastor?
Of which they bring patriarchy. What they are trying to do is hold on to their patriarchy to say, I'm coming in this space, but...
I'm a feminist, but those ones are there. That's why this of Sylvia were telling us in the late 90s and early 2000s. Feminist, no ifs, no buts, or however's.
Yes.
That's literally what the African Feminist Charter says.
Yes.
Because I think they were tired of that sect of feminists who always had to clarify their feminism with another thing. Yeah? So, and in Uganda, and now this is me speaking as a kuchu, as a lesbian.
Yes.
Religion has really been to the point that a lot of queer people in Uganda tend to lose their faith. You understand? Because of the way that religion has been weaponized against us, that these people have made God so hostile, and the places where people gather to worship God so hostile, that so many of us queer people have just self-selected out of those places because they're really at loggerheads with the way that we express ourselves and the way that we want to exist in the world. So I think that says a lot about that those religions and the kind of things that they're trying to introduce into our lives. Are these religions that embrace the diversity of human beings? Are they intended to serve us or to limit us? Yeah. So, but me as a person, it's a red flag when I meet someone and they're like, I am a Christian feminist. I am a Muslim feminist. Something. I'll be like, I'll listen to you. Yeah. But there's already a red flag that has gone off in my head. I'm just like, now this one has brought to God and Allah to our meeting. You get what are they gonna do?
I feel like the way religion, the role that it plays, is also very present in law, and we are seeing things like the AHA. We've lived through the AHA times 2, and I don't know. I keep questioning: is our liberation in the courts? Is our liberation? I mean, I'm one of the plaintiffs in the AHA. Second AHA, first AHA, and second AHA.
You are a serial plaintiff.
I'm a serial plaintiff.
As if a serial monogamist.
I'm a serial plaintiff in, trying, to get justice for my community, our community. And just ponder with me a bit, is our future really in those courtrooms where people still carry a lot of colonial, they don't even carry, they hold so tight on the colonial legacies, and it's like we can't think for ourselves. I feel that whenever we say that it's homophobia that was...
We say it's homophobia that's imported, not
homosexuality. Let's just have a conversation about that.
If our liberation, is in structures that have been imported already.
Yeah.
Hey, that's a tough thing to think about, Pepe.
That is why we are sitting here, because those are questions that beat you in my head.
Yeah, because for me, the way that I think about it, we have to be realistic in the ways that we seek our liberation in this time and place. Yeah, it is true that these structures were introduced to us by people who hated us, who were actively trying to wipe us out and exploit us so that they could benefit from the resources that this continent has. But at the end of the day, the fact that we have adopted these structures and we've made them legitimate over time. Yes. I mean, the Constitution, our 1995 Constitution, this is a Constitution of this century, is really talks about the role of the courts, creates these systems. And so these are systems that everyone in society, not just us, have had to rely on as the place where we go to arbitrate our conflicts, to arbitrate questions that we have about the rights and entitlements for our government and society. So sadly, we are stuck with these systems, because of course we speak about revolution, abolish Uganda, abolish the courts. But in the here and now, that reality has not yet materialized. So we do have to make do with what we have, and be able to use those spaces effectively, which I think is a burden for us, because we find especially in the society that we are in, that because these spaces are colonial, they maintain those colonial practices. They maintain those colonial practices of not necessarily viewing Africans as human beings, because that's the practice of the courts, you know? These places where you have to go and behave so formally. There's a Ugandan former judge, I don't know if she's still a judge, whose name I won't mention, who used to get angry at women lawyers if you come to court wearing pants, or if you have, like, if your hair is locked.
Or
you understand?
skirt.
Yeah. So these are still spaces that are enforcing this very white masculinist patriarchal ideology. Yeah. But there are also spaces that have been imbued with our dreams as Ugandans, for what a better future looks like. If you see what our constitution says about, if you look at the preamble of the constitution, we the people, the things that we are envisioning, and those rights that have been, set out in the constitution, those are the things that we hope that the courts will uphold. Sadly for us, my friend, I saw that judgment in that case, which the Constitutional Court, the AHA case. I said, are these people, did they get a legal education? It really, really pained me, Pepe, also because recently I was in Kenya and we had the opportunity to meet the lady from this, the recent case that the High Court of Kenya made a judgment on, of the trans lady who was arrested and taken to a female prison. Then somebody went to, sisters sometimes can be so hateful. Someone went to spread a rumor. Then they went and undressed the woman and they said, we take her to a male prison. And then if you see the things that the judge was saying, one about like the rights and dignity of an individual, but also the practicality of the management of incarcerated individuals. Yeah. And then you compare it to the things which our judges were saying in that constitutional court case. You're just like...
I was seated there.
Anyway, the law is an instrument.
It was sad. Not just for that case, it was like a sad day for the country. That kind of panel could come to that kind of decision. Yeah. I, in so many ways, lost respect for the courts. But as you said, there are structures that we need to find opportunities in there to liberate ourselves. And
Professor Tamale used to tell us when we were in law school, Pepe, and I think she has made this point in most of like the legal literature that she has produced, from When Hens Begin to Crow, and even the point comes through in her most recent Afrofeminisms, that the law is a tool. The law is not neutral. The law is not neutral. And those of us who are subject to the law have to take the responsibility of trying to push that law further so that it's able to protect as many of us as possible, but also to change the laws that oppress us. So we must recognize that even while we are relying on the law, on the constitution to try to liberate ourselves, but look at the law still being used to oppress us. These ninjas are literally passing laws to say that we are not human beings. And then we still have to go back to rely on another law to say, but here you said all of us, so now why are you removing me? So the law is not neutral. It's not neutral. And individuals have used it against us for a long time, but also for me, that's why I think we should not remove ourselves from doing the kind of things that we are doing before the courts.
So I should continue being a serial.
Continue being a plaintiff. And me, I'm always telling Ugandans that we need to sue more.
Yeah.
We need to sue more.
At every level.
Yeah.
I believe that as well.
Because
at every level.
Yeah. Where the world has reached now, what are the ways in which oppressed people are able to protect themselves? The state has monopolized monopolized violence. You understand? And I would never advocate for us, being violent towards each other in certain ways. What are the other non-violent ways that we can use to resolve conflict amongst ourselves? We can continue to build systems within our communities, but the courts are the legitimate tool that exists now. Why can't queers access the courts? why can't the court protect us in the way that it's intended to protect us? You know?
And in many ways, you know, also for me being a serial plaintiff is trying to claim that tool, you know, to make it work for us. It's not been, of course, an easy journey, but it's something that is here now and something that we can challenge, right? So also where there's violence, where there's chaos, where there's conflict, there are things that keep us afloat, right? In my case, you know this of me, I love love. I love love. So like let's just touch a little bit, not a little bit, but let's try to go into love. We've spoken about all the structural things and the ideologies. You love love. I know that.
Success. I love the success. The success love me.
Yes.
What can we do?
Yes. So love as a lesbian woman or human, love as a queer agitator, and all these other labels that you wear. Does love feature anywhere? What is your concept of family? I know people talk about chosen family or whatever. Is it alternative family? Heartbreak, healing, you know, all those things. Hey, we can heal until we die, by the way.
What else will we do?
Yeah, but just...
I love love, to be honest. And this is a thing that I say. People sometimes laugh at me and say I'm lying, but me honestly believe that feminists are lucky in love. We are very lucky in love. Because of the things that we believe in, I think that we tend to be very picky, but also very deliberate in the way that we approach interpersonal relationships with people. Which means that even when we find ourselves in situations where love ends, love changes, or at least not necessarily ends, but changes into something else.
I like that you're deliberate about that.
I really can't think of myself as anything other than lucky in love, to be honest, because I see how difficult love is for cishet women. Yeah. Sorry for being those people who are like, at least. But at least, you know, I see how difficult it is for people to be in relationships with people who do not value women. And every day I bless my ancestors for making me a lesbian, because I don't know if I would ever have experienced love in the way that I've experienced it, if not for that fact.
Say what? Clock it.
Clock it. But yes, because I really don't think I would have experienced love in the way that I've experienced it. And not just romantic love even, platonic love as well. Although even platonic love can be very romantic. So maybe I should say erotic love, not just erotic love. Because, and also, which is a thing that I can't say that I'm grateful for the fact that we find ourselves as a community of people who are constantly in resistance with the status quo. But I feel like that resistance against the status quo has forced us to try to build something that is different from the status quo. So when I look, for example, at the relationships that I've been able to build with other women, other people who have deliberately chosen to love me or who have chosen to love, I can't do anything but be grateful for the way that kind of love has found me. Like, Pepe, I found you. We finally found each other through an email. Yes. But look at how long we've loved each other for, Pepe. We've loved each other for more than 10 years.
It's over a decade and a half.
Yeah. You hosted the commitment ceremony that I did with my girlfriend at the time, when I felt the need to declare before the people who loved me that this is the person who I love, who has chosen to love me, and we want you to hold us accountable in that love. You know, that you and other people who loved us came together and created this environment in which we were just soaked.
Yeah. Oh my.
Nobody allowed us to lift a finger that day, not even to cut a pineapple.
Yeah.
You all see it as we are preparing this thing for you people to, we are celebrating your love today, you know? And that day is still one of my favorite days, to be honest, in my life to this day, yeah? The friendships that I've had with my friends, like right now, when I think of like people like you, people like Njeri, people like Rizzi, people who have loved me to the point where I'm just like, I don't even know if my own mother loves me like this, you know? I don't even know if my own mother loves me like this. But to be held in that manner, to be seen by other human beings and to be chosen. Because at the end of the day, of course, our spirits recognize each other in some way. I mean, that's why we are here. Yeah. But at the end of the day, if you look at the way that the patriarchal world is set up, we are random strangers who wound each other. Yeah, we are not related by blood, which is the relationship which our society wants to make the most important for purposes of loving. But also because I have not been very lucky when it comes to the people that I'm related to by blood. I guess I'm lucky in the sense that now as I'm getting older, I'm being given the opportunity to try and rebuild my relationships with some of them. But unfortunately for me and for a lot of queer people, sometimes the families that we were born into choose to be ignorant and choose to abandon us or choose to love us so badly that we rather abandon them, you know? So, and I hear a lot of queer people talk about chosen family and whatever. And I don't know if we get to...
You know that ignorance part of our families. You see how our families usually know. Particularly they say mother always knows best and mother knows. And yeah, I think that's right, that our families choose ignorance. They choose to fake or they choose not to take the opportunity to love us the way we deserve to be loved. Yeah, I just wanted us to kind of soak in that a little bit, because usually our families know. Like this whole thing of like, what? You mean? We've been going to church. What do you mean? You were taking me to church because you wanted to change something. You saw it. Instead of nurturing it and protecting me to be my full self, you were taking me to strangers to abuse me, to become what you want. Yeah. So for me, usually I'm not very tolerant to members of the blood community. In fact, I even call it a blood community that who choose to be like, we did not know. What do you mean you did not know? You actually knew, you were just ignoring it because of your own discomfort or your own comfort.
Yeah. It's a lie. It's a lie that they tell themselves because they want us to continue lying to ourselves for their comfort.
Yes.
You understand? I've never, with the amount of time that people spend with their families, especially like the way that capitalism has made it so that nuclear families, everyone has to live in one house. There's probably one car, so all of you are driving to the same place or being dropped. There's no way that you spend that much time around your child and you're unaware that they're queer. Exactly. So it's a certain cruelty, to be honest. It's a certain cruelty that certain blood families decide to adopt and exercise against their queer nibblings, siblings, children, you know? And it's really, really sad. I hope, of course, we have managed, or at least some of us have managed, because Pepe, sadly, not every queer person survives alive. Yeah, not all of us have survived. Not all of us have survived, and even when many of us have survived, not all of us are thriving. And we have to acknowledge the things that are killing us. And sadly, for queer people, a lot of times it's our families that are killing us. And that's part of the reason why I think that our liberation is not just legal, it's not just in the courts. Our liberation is also social. Yeah? Our liberation is also familial. I want to live in a world where queer people belong. You know, where queer people belong. And the first family is the one that raises you, the one that teaches you how to bathe. Like, and then when it comes to the point of teaching you how to be a sensible lover or whatever, then they decide that your love is not the kind that we want to teach you how to enjoy. It's painful, it's disappointing. It's quite disappointing. Yeah.
I normally talk about, I'm one of the coordinators for the Smart Queer Leadership Academy. And one thing we try to emphasize for the leaders is that we should lead with heart, not heart. Like not from pain, right? What has leadership, looked like for you? What has your leadership experience been like? And what legacy should the community, what kind of pulse do you want to see the community have in terms of leadership? We're in a country, without going into the political aspect of it, but of course the political aspect of it, of the way our country is run, has affected us socially, but has also affected queer leadership.
It's affected how we deal with each other, how we love each other. And I think that cuts across movements, to be honest, because it's a thing that we are always also talking about as feminists. The way that sometimes we forget that we are on the same side, and then we fight each other with the same tactics that we are using to attack the system, the oppressor, and then we turn those tactics on ourselves, but also because a lot of queer people are extremely traumatized. We come to each other when we are wounded, and sometimes it's quite easy to bleed all over everybody.
That lack of love. You see the leadership in your home of your parents failing you, and then you kind of, even unconsciously, I think, you adopt the same.
You bring the same tactic and bring it into these spaces. So I feel like as I get older, I am leaning into, I think, what you've described as leading with heart. On the left, leading with heart versus leading with heart, because to be honest, there was a time, and I think this is a necessary part of like enlightenment, when that switch goes off in your head and you realize that you are oppressed. The first reaction is usually anger, and sometimes, especially in a society like this one, where people are not necessarily allowed to freely express against the things that annoy them, whatever, it's very easy to turn that anger into, like, towards people who don't deserve it, but also in the spaces where we're actually trying to build together. And I feel like in my earlier years, I actually did that a lot, where I became very angry at people that I should have been choosing to seek to understand and build bridges with, But as I've grown and evolved, honestly, the experience has really changed. Hey, and we bless ancestors for feminism also, because feminism can beat you, especially if you take it seriously. And like, if you do the readings and you're listening to other feminists, it's impossible for it not to beat you. And me, I feel like I've been beaten by feminism and other feminists. And and also I think lesbianism, ancestors, thank you for the gift. The fact that I love women and I find myself in spaces where I'm consistently having to organize with women has really made it a bit, has made that love more accessible for me, in terms of, even when I find myself in a position of, because leadership, we think of leadership as very hierarchical, that I have authority over you or you have authority over me. I'm very amenable to like collective leadership, co-leadership. Also because there's a part of me who doesn't like doing too many things. Sometimes when you're the leader, then you become the one. What hasn't been done? Hey, ask Pepe, ask Godiva. No, let's ask each other. Why hasn't the thing been done? So I really, really like the idea of leading with others. That maybe there are situations in which I'm the one who will lead, because maybe I'm a better writer or I'm a better speaker. But there are definitely situations where somebody else has to lead, because maybe some people are more action-oriented and are better at making long-term plans, or, So for me, I like that I've grown, the movement has grown me, other activists have grown me, other feminists have grown me into a person who realizes that leadership is essentially shared responsibility for our collective thriving. Yeah.
We've spoken quite a bit, and in there I've sensed courage, I've sensed pain, I've sensed love, leadership, of course, intellect, and various things. We are also within the ambit of mental health awareness, and our community has been very, and I know, as your friend, as your family, you've had your share of that experience. Because we've mentioned about being human, and you've also given me those flowers about humanizing, ourselves as within our different identities. And I feel that touching on this is part of that humanness.
Yeah. I think that I'm grateful for lesbianism. That one we have to say it again. Yeah.
I think this episode is going to be changed to I'm grateful for lesbianism.
But I really am grateful for lesbianism in the sense that it has allowed me to access a certain love and care from women and other individuals that I don't think I would have been able to access otherwise. Because I say this a lot of times, but unfortunately, I seem to have been descended, at least the most recent streak of my bloodline are very foolish people. You get? And that might be me calling myself foolish, but if it's the truth, it's the truth, And they've not loved me well at all. And I think that that initial trauma affected me very deeply when I was very young, when I was just coming into my adulthood. And it led to the development of unhealthy coping mechanisms, but it also made my approach to my activism and the kind of work that I wanted to see done in the world very desperate and reckless and urgent. You get? Not to say that I've not done the work well, because I have done the work well. But just to say that I think if I was able to access certain kinds of guidance and certain kinds of care, I maybe would have done things differently. Yeah. But then also, because of the society that we live in, Pepe, a lot of my trauma comes from being forced to exist as myself in a constantly hostile environment, Because for me, it has never been an option for me to stop being a lesbian or to be a lesbian in hiding. I don't know how to hide. I have a big voice. I don't know how to keep secrets. I'm a Sagittarius. I don't have secrets. You understand? So, like, if I'm a lesbian, everybody knows.
I'm a Sagittarius.
No, like, I can keep other people's secrets, but like, now me, I have like a secret I've kept in my heart, which, because when I enjoy something, I'll tell you, I enjoyed this thing. When I hate a thing, I'm just like, I hate it, stop doing it, And so it's been impossible for me to hide my queerness, and I think Ugandan society has beaten me over the head with it for a long time. In fact, I have a case currently in court. I sued some babe, she's called Elizabeth Nabakoza, because of an incident about 5 years ago on Twitter where I was brutally attacked. I had been like a victim of online violence for a long time. And a lot of it was made worse by the fact that people perceived me as an easy target because I'm a lesbian and Ugandan society views us as disposable. So you can talk to me anyhow. You can say anything you want about me. You can, you can treat me anyhow. And Ugandans on Twitter really, they broke my heart. Not that they had the authority to break my heart, but I'm a human being and I do have certain expectations of my society. Also because I have a bleeding heart. All the work that I do for my society. You understand? So I expect certain reciprocation regardless of how foolish that might make me sound, but it's the truth. I expect my society to love me back because I'm actively loving it. You understand? And they really traumatized me. They ruined my sense of public safety. It gave me crippling social anxiety to the point. But then the thing I love about myself is that I'm a fighter. I fight back. I fight back. I fight back, and that's why I continue to fight back.
In court.
Yeah.
Not just on the streets.
I fight back. You'll never slap me and I let you pass. Even if it's 3 years, I'll find you. I'll find you and cover you properly. So I'm fighting, but honestly, a lot of the ways in which our society has traumatized me have been because of homophobia and lesbophobia. And I was having a conversation with some funders earlier today, and I was telling them that we do have to support mental health for queer people and especially for activists. In this Uganda, our government is anti-activists because it views all activists as opposition. It doesn't see us as people who are also trying to positively contribute to our society. And so we know what the Afandis are doing. Stalking us in balas, following us home, sitting at our gates, trying to intimidate us. All those things are deliberately meant. That kind of intimidation can drive a human being mad, to be honest. Yeah? And so I feel like as activists, but also as people who are constantly excluded from our societies, we do need to be very careful about protecting our mental health and acknowledging that our society continues to damage us, and how do we rise up from that? Who are the people who are loving you out of your pain, and how can we make sure that we are not having to survive alone? Yeah.
Are you okay?
My heart is beating kidogo, but I'm kawa.
I'm right.
Yeah, I'm kawa, but I'm an advocate for fighting back, Pepe. I'm an advocate for fighting back because I think that the thing that breaks a lot of us and causes self-blame when we find ourselves traumatized by other human beings and by life circumstances is that sometimes we feel powerless to respond. And we feel like we were not able to defend ourselves, so we somehow contributed to ourselves being harmed. Or, so me, I'm an advocate for fighting back, find a way to challenge whatever it is that is breaking your soul, that is trying to break your soul.
Earlier this year, you received the David Kato Vision and Voice Award, which is part of Legacy. I asked the question, what does queer liberation look like for you? And what would you like your legacy to be? The baby queers that are coming up now, what should they be looking out for? You've already told us a lot. That's already part of your legacy. But just as a direct question, what does queer liberation look like? I've taken a lot already, including suing everyone. Sue them.
Because I think...
And your joy, what's that? What is it? Is it right now for you, or is it something you're waiting on as your liberation?
It's right now. I want my legacy to be that I have managed to live my life as a free lesbian. There's no sex whom I wanted to kiss in the bala, whom I didn't kiss, even if we're in Kampala. You can. There's honestly, and I think that inherently the liberation work that we do, of course, it's intended to liberate everyone. But to some extent, it's extremely selfish. It's very selfish because there's also that part of you that's like, this is the thing that I want. And so for me, I don't think of my liberation as being in the future. I think of it as there are ways in which my society is trying to stop me from doing the things that I want to do. It doesn't mean I'm not going to do them. I'm still going to do them, but then I'm going to try to make sure that society doesn't make me suffer for it. Yeah. Or if they try to make me suffer, I respond. Even when I filed documents in court, I explained in my pleadings, Godiva is a non-binary pronouns they. Is that something people go and say in a Ugandan court? Is that something people say in Ugandan court?
No, they don't.
You would say I'm taking Kajanja to
yes.
But me, I've entered. You understand? Like, that is the life that I want to live. That's the reality that I want to create. Doesn't mean it sounds stupid. It looks stupid. I've been told, I have Kajanja. That is my legacy.
Hey, your legacy is Kajanja.
Yeah, I'm free. I'm free. I'm a free lesbian. I'm a free lesbian. Yeah.
Amazing. And that's a good note to end. You've been my first guest. To our listeners, our viewers, Godiva Akullo, an amazing lesbian, an amazing human, and you've listened to the voices of freedom. You've listened to what liberation looks like, and liberation is like now. If you're a lesbian out there and you feel inspired, we have, you comment on our posts, DM us, and we will link you with amazing leaders like Godiva. And this, oh my God, I'm so happy that you're actually my first guest because lesbians actually began the dream of liberating LGBTIQ people in this country.
Talk on it.
So thank you so much that you accepted to be my first guest. I'm extremely honored that you are my first guest and that you've been able to share your wisdom and your laughter and your tears and your heartbeats and your pulse, of what liberation looks like with us. Yeah. This has been the Legacy Pulse with me, Pepe Onziema. Join us again next time. Thank you.